Hello and welcome to Anatomy of Marriage. I'm your host, Melanie Studley.
What's up, my good friends? My name is Seth Studley. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. Welcome to Anatomy of Marriage.
We are so flippin' excited to share with
Don't
you.
even think about it. More than excited.
Right now, you're going to watch us interview one of our heroes of the planet.
One of the dudes that changed a lot for us.
Yes, Hal Elrod. He is the author of The Miracle Morning.
Mm-hmm.
He also wrote a book called The Miracle Equation. There's a movie called The Miracle Morning, and he's co-authored like a bajillion books, like The Miracle Marriage, The Miracle Morning for Marriage, all that stuff. So he is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to love this interview. Get your tissues ready because you might cry.
That's right. If you actually want real change in yourself and in your marriage, write down and listen to this episode 100 times, because if you do it, I promise you it will change your marriage and your life. Me and Melanie did it. And guess what? Hello, new me, new marriage.
Yes. Anyway, enjoy this interview. See you in a minute. Bye. We are so glad that you're on our show. We can't wait to hear all about what you've been doing and all about your work. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, that's there's a lot of directions I could go there. But thank you guys for having me on, first of all.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Who I am, first and foremost, I am a husband and a father. I really mean that. That took me quite a few years to align my schedule with what I said were my priorities, what I thought were my priorities, right? If you ask any entrepreneur, what's your highest priority? If they have a family, they'll usually say, my family, of course. And then you said, yeah, can I take a peek at your schedule real quick, right? You end up getting a different story. You go, wow, they look like your last priority when I look at how you're actually spending your time. And so before I got cancer a few years ago, that was really me, as I was deluding myself into thinking family was number one, but they didn't feel that because I always worked a little bit late, worked on a weekend, traveled away from them far too often. So I'm a husband and father, first and foremost. I'm best known as the author of The Miracle Morning. And it's a book that I self-published in 2012 that it's now practiced daily, the Miracle Morning practice by millions of people in over 70 countries. And it's become kind of this worldwide movement of people who are really on a mission to elevate the consciousness of humanity, one person and one morning at a time. And it's simply by us waking up and becoming the best version of ourselves, the ripple effect of that, right, is that we then bring our best self to our marriage and to our children and to the workplace or the work that we do. And so by us working every morning on becoming the best version of ourselves, we impact every life that we come in contact with in a positive way. So, and if each one of us does that, right, the world is a better place. It's a very different place. So anyway, I'm kind of going off on tangents here. I'll give a quick, I guess, bio, if you will, here. So I started this work when I was 19 years old. I actually started a job in sales. I started selling Cutco cutlery. And I quickly became one of the top reps for the company. I broke a bunch of records and I started giving speeches. So that was kind of like, that got me into, I love inspiring people. Mm-hmm. And then a year and a half into my Cutco career, driving home one night from a speech, I was hit head on by a drunk driver. My car was hit head on by a drunk driver at 80 miles an hour. I spun off the drunk driver. The car behind me crashed into my door, my driver's side door at 70 miles an hour, crushed the door into the left side of my body. And instantaneously, I broke 11 bones. My leg broke in half, my femur broke in half, my pelvis broke in 3 places, crushed between the center console. My arm broke in half behind my bicep. I shattered my elbow, severed the nerve in my forearm. My eye socket was shattered. My ear was almost completely severed. And the ceiling buckled and it sliced the top of my head open. And I immediately was in a coma, unable to withstand the pain. You know, thank God the body kind of self-regulates that way. And an hour later, when they were able to use the jaws of life to cut me out of the car, I actually bled to death. And I was clinically dead for approximately 6 minutes without a heartbeat, wasn't breathing. They revived me. They rushed me to the hospital, airlifted me on a helicopter to the hospital. I spent 6 days in a coma. And when I came out of the coma, I was told I would never walk again. And I decided, I said, okay, I will accept. If I never walk again, I will be the happiest, most grateful person you've ever seen in a wheelchair. because I'm in a wheelchair either way. I'm not going to let that affect my internal quality of life. But I said, I'm not accepting that as my ultimate fate. Just because the doctors say I'm not going to walk again, I'm not going to accept that that's the end all be all until I'm proven otherwise. So I decided I'm going to put all my energy into the possibility, the miracle, if you will, of walking again. So I prayed about it every day, and I meditated on it every day, and I thought about it. I visualized it. I talked about it as, hey, no, this is going to happen. Watch you. I'm going to prove everybody wrong. I'm going to take my first step. And 3 weeks after the crash, after I was found dead and my legs broke and all these things, the doctors came in with routine x-rays, and they said, we don't know how to explain this, but your body is healing so quickly. We're actually going to let you take your first step tomorrow in therapy.
Wow.
And even me being optimistic, I was thinking like that was a year off, I mean,
Yeah.
And that day or the next day, I took my first step, and, I eventually went on to, walk completely normal and run marathons and all this, just get back to normal. And that really led, I decided and I feel like for all of us, this can help. We all go through adversity. And I decided that this car accident, I'm going to get through this in the most positive, proactive way that I can, not just for myself, but for the greater good. I thought, if I overcome this in a really positive way, then I'll have knowledge and things that I can share with people, whether it's my family or friends, or I write a book someday or whatever it is, that can help them to do the same. And that's what kind of led me down the path of the work that I do today. And then, there was Miracle Morning, and then I got cancer 3 years ago. That's a whole nother story. I almost died again. And knock on wood, I think I've gone through all the things. I've learned the lessons. I just want to teach them now. And hopefully I don't have to go through any more life and death experiences.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Hal, that's just a bonkers story, which could be like, 12 podcasts in itself. So you mentioned prayer, and like we both are Christian, and I'm just wondering, and I haven't seen this anywhere out there. Maybe I've just missed it. But I guess that's even weird to say, when you died for the first time for 6 minutes, do you have any recollection of anything? Several people talk about their stories, but can you just maybe briefly touch on that for a minute?
Yeah, no, I wish I had a cool story for you. The story is cool, but in terms of what happened during those 6 minutes, I suffered. When you're hit head on, it's very common. When you're in a head on collision, your brain is traveling at 70 miles an hour and comes to a dead stop, and it smashes the front of your skull at 70 miles an hour. Yeah. And your frontal lobe is where your short-term memory is housed. And so I don't remember anything from, I remember getting in the car that night, kind of getting on the freeway, and then I don't remember for about 2 weeks of my life. So there's about 2 weeks of my life I don't remember at all, including what happened in those 6 minutes. I will say this though, and I think, you could call this, I guess, faith, right? I have this like intuitive knowing that the old adage, everything happens for a reason. I feel like that's true, but not in the way that we've been conditioned to think, which is like the reason's out of our control, and people will go through a difficult time and question God, why did this happen to me?
Right.
And for me, I think that everything happens for a reason, but it's our responsibility to choose the reasons.
Yes.
Right. And we can choose. You can be a victim and go, oh my God, this happened because life isn't fair and I don't deserve this. And right. You can choose what I would call victim reasons, right? Which kind of disempower you and make you feel hopeless and out of control. Or for me, I went, how can I use this experience to become a better version of myself? How can I use this experience to help other people? And when you ask those questions, and you don't look at from a victim lens, but you look at it from a victor lens, how can this benefit me? Then in doing that, it gives you energy. I just had energy, like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to overcome this. I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to focus on anything out of my control, because I feel out of control when I do that. In fact, I want to pause and I want to insert a lesson for everybody right now. Right now, there's a hell of a lot going on in the world that is out of control, that is out of our control, right? Yeah. We didn't get to control the election. We're not controlling a virus. Like there's so much that we're not controlling the lockdowns. Like there's so much right now that is out of our control. And most of us focus on those things. And when we focus on that which is out of our control, we feel out of control.
Mm-hmm.
And that causes stress. It causes us to feel depressed. It causes anxiety. It doesn't serve us, but it really hurts us. Mm-hmm. And it hurts those around us because we're in that state, especially if you're, it hurts our spouse, it hurts our kids, right? They feel that stress, that energy that we're experiencing, that fear energy. And so the opposite of focusing on what's out of your control is focusing on what's in your control. Mm-hmm. And that really, begins and ends with ourselves. Every day, it's like you're in control of yourself. You might not be in control of all of those things out there in the world that are going on, but you're in control of how you show up. Do you show up to life with fear and with anxiety and in a state of depression? Or do you choose to show up every day with love and with courage instead of judging others for being different? How about loving them for being different? How about empathy? How about understanding, right? So the point is, we can't control the things we can't control, but we can always control ourselves, how we show up every day, and how we choose to experience all of the things that are out of our control from a place of, fear and anxiety, or a place of peace and love and acceptance and, and gratitude.
Absolutely. That makes me think, as you were talking, I recently read some Eckhart Tolle's work, right? The Power of Now.
Eckhart.
And so it makes me think, if I focus on what was my past, whether it was traumatic or missed opportunities or whatever, there's absolutely zero that I can do, right? And then if I focus on the future, who's in office, or what about this, the economy, the pandemic, I still have no control over it, right? And then then it creates this cognitive dissonance, right? Well, I can't control that. I can't control the past. So the importance of focusing on now, and then of course enter the miracle morning. Okay, if I wake up and seize the day, take control of the day, then guess what? Everything most likely is going to flow off of that and roll downhill in the way I like it. And one of the things I was going to say this earlier, but thank you sincerely for writing the Miracle Morning.
Yes.
I'm almost like choking up just now because it's like so the Miracle Morning was one of the first books that I read. That's weird. I'm like getting choked up. I don't know why. I didn't expect that.
It changed our lives, for real. Changed our lives.
Melanie read it first and she said, "Hey, you got to read this," right? And this was probably 6 years ago, right when we were getting into the growth mindset. Let's do this. Let's take control of our marriage, because we've been married 16 years and our marriage was a total wreck. That's what the whole show was about.
Right.
And we really began taking control. And I when I say that, I'm not just saying, okay, because I'm like fanboying here or like you're on the show. Your book, The Miracle Morning, was the catalyst of all the, I don't know, hundreds of books that I've read on self-help and like growth mindset. And now we do coaching, high performance marriage coaching. And we're seeing this work in our clients. In your book, The Miracle Morning, The 6 Saver Steps, is that was the catalyst. That's all I can say. Right. So thank you for that.
You are welcome. And thank you for sharing that. That means more to me than you know. So to hear that, I mean, that's why I wrote it. And that's why I still talk about it and promote it, because of the impact that it can make. And so hearing that really, it fills me up, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah. It really was life-changing. I remember hearing about it. I feel like I heard about it from like a Brendan Burchard podcast or something. And this was this had to be right when it came out, because podcasts weren't huge like they are now.
When this stuff wasn't like super, like,
when it just wasn't everywhere. And I remember starting to do it because I was like so depressed and our marriage was so awful and we were wanting to get divorced. We had 2 little kids. And I just started like going through, and I think the thing that really did change us was the reading part of it. Like just saturating your brain with all of these amazing authors and thoughts and whatever. So before we fanboy and girl more, why don't you tell us all about what the Miracle Morning actually is? What are the steps and how does it work?
Yeah, well, I'll give you I'll start with a quick backstory because I think it's important. So it was 2007, 2008, right around that time, and the U.S. economy started to crash. And I'm the eternal optimist, so I'm like, I don't pay attention. I don't watch the news. I create my own economy. I was a coach, so my clients were in sales and entrepreneurs and business owners, and their businesses started suffering the consequences of the economy. And then they started canceling, going, I can't pay for coaching anymore. So in a matter of months, I lost over half of my clients, which that was my only source of income at the time. So I lost over half of my income. I could not pay my mortgage. My house was foreclosed on by the bank. I started living on credit cards where I was like a Dave Ramsey debt-free, person at that point. Yeah. And within 6 months, I was $52,000 in personal credit card debt and just climbing. And nothing that I was doing was working. I just kept like sliding deeper and deeper and deeper into this hole. And one day, a good friend of mine, John Berghoff, advised me. He said, Hal, are you exercising every day? I called him, tell him how much I was struggling. And he said, are you exercising every day? And I go, no, but what the hell does that have to do with anything I just told you? Like, I need money, not, abs. And
right.
He said, no. He goes, listen, if you're not getting blood and oxygen to your brain every day, if you're not putting yourself in a peak state physically, you're not putting yourself in a peak state mentally and emotionally, and you're not going to be thinking any clearer or having more energy to turn your situation around. He said, if I were you, I would go for a run every morning. And while you're on that run, while you're in that peak physical state, listen to some self-help audio, business podcast. He goes, basically, whatever you need to fix in your life, while you're in that peak physical, mental, and emotional state, learn that thing, run home and implement it. Mm-hmm. And I called him for advice on, I was like, how can I, like, where's the fastest way to the cash? Like, I need to make some money, Mm-hmm. And this was kind of like a teach a man to fish versus give them the fish, and I was kind of resistant, but I was desperate. So I'm like, all right, I'll do it. And I said, any recommendation on what audio I should listen to? And he had me listen to this Jim Rohn audio. I forgot what it was called, but so the next morning I begrudgingly go for a run, and I hear this Jim Rohn quote within the first few minutes that changed my entire life. Or it was as you said, the catalyst that, created the miracle morning. Jim Rohn said, your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development, because success is something you attract by the person that you become.
Yes.
And when I heard that, and I think I had heard it before, but sometimes, you hear something that goes in one ear out the other, but that morning it was like I was in the right, I needed it. And the way that I quantified it in my head is I went, okay, if my level of success will seldom exceed my level of personal development, I thought, well, what level of success do I want? Do we all want? And on a scale of 1 to 10, it's safe to say that in every area of life, we want level 10.
You want the highest.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. You want level 10 health and level 10 happiness and level 10 money and level 10 relationships. And you want to be a level 10 parent, right? You want level 10 energy. And, but what I realized is, okay, if my level of success will rarely exceed my level of personal development, I go, well, what's my level of personal development on a scale of 1 to 10? And I think for most people, myself included at the time, most of our society, I think this is the big disconnect. We all want level 10 success, but if you go, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, my level of personal development, where does that fit in? And by the way, I would define personal development as like, it's your level of knowledge, right? How many books on, if you're getting a divorce, right, you have to ask, well, how many books on marriage have I read in the last 6 months?
Right.
And it's usually 0.
Right.
It's like, so you're not learning anything about being a better partner, having better communication. Of course, your marriage isn't at a 10. You're not becoming a level 10 spouse, right?
Right.
So I realized my level of personal development at the time in general was like at a 2, maybe like a 3 or a 4, And so if you want level 10 success and you're at a level 3 or 4, that's a big disconnect. And I realized I need to dedicate time every day to become a level 10 person. Therefore, I will be capable of creating and sustaining level 10 success. And so I had my idea. I go, okay, I'm going to go home and I got to create the most effective daily personal development ritual known to man, And I went online and I started Googling random phrases like personal development practices of millionaires, billionaires. What do the world's most successful people do for their personal development? And I just kept Googling phrases like this and making a list. And I was looking for the best practice. And I had a list of 6 practices in about a half an hour. And I got overwhelmed. I go, oh, but which of these is the best? Like, I can't do all 6. It was meditation, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, journaling, right? Like any one of these would be a new habit, a new undertaking, and I had tried some of these before and I had failed. Some I had never tried. And I got overwhelmed. I almost kind of threw in the towel because I was reading the articles and I'm going, none of these is better than the other. It just depends on which one or who you talk to, that, this one successful person says meditation changed their life, but this other person says it was visualization, and on and on. And I almost kind of threw in the towel with overwhelm. And then the epiphany happened. I went, wait a minute. What if I did all of these tomorrow? What if I just woke up an hour earlier, even though I wasn't a morning person? That's an important caveat. But I go, what if I woke up an hour earlier and I did the 6 most timeless, proven personal development practices of all time? And what if I just did 10 minutes each? 10 minutes of meditation, 10 minutes of affirmations, right? All the way through. I thought that would be the ultimate morning or personal development ritual. And so here's an interesting part. Most of us, I want to talk about waking up in the morning real quick before we go into these 6 practices. Because this is an important piece. This is a limiting belief, in my opinion, that I had to overcome, that many people have. I'm not a morning person. If you don't wake up early, then you're not a morning person. I used to hate running, but I committed publicly to run an ultra marathon. So I had to train for it. And I'm like, oh God, I don't want to do this. And I actually, when we get through this, the miracle morning practices, I'll tell you how I use them to start running. So we'll get into that. But the point is, I hated running. And then I figured out how to get myself to just start really slowly. Like just day 1, it was go walk for 10 minutes. Easy. Day 2, it was jog, right? I just got to gradually step it up. But the point is this, my limiting belief was I'm not a runner. I can't run. And then when I started running, I became a runner, right? If you don't wake up early and you keep telling yourself you can't do it, like this is universal for all of life. They're all limiting beliefs. I'm not a runner. I can't eat healthy. I can't do blank. I can't wake up early. I've tried. I've failed. Great. You figure out how to commit, or you make the commitment to do it. You figure out how to get yourself to do it. There's some nuances to that. But then all of a sudden, you can literally overcome or become anything that you want.
And you have to start somewhere, right? It's like, so Melanie, we both run and exercise and stuff, but she used to say, I'm not a runner. And so, okay, where did the first runner come from? Were they just born? Was it like some innate thing like, I'm a runner? Oftentimes, because I'm a therapist and with clients, I have clients come in and say, oh, I'm major depressive. I'm like, wait a minute, who named you that?
Right.
What is that? Right. So you begin to label yourself. I'm not a runner. I'm not a good husband. I can't
wake up early. Right.
It's like, whoa, no. Don't give yourself that name. Then you don't have to carry it. So I just wanted to throw that in.
Right.
No, thank you. That adds a lot of value. So the interesting thing is that night. So we usually, it's hard to wake up in the morning because we go to bed, we're not excited to wake up in the morning.
Right.
But I always think about, when were you guys, like in your lifetime, when were you the most excited to wake up?
Christmas morning.
Right. Like as a kid, even as an adult for a lot of people, but especially as a kid. Like when I was a kid on Christmas, I couldn't wait to go to, I just wanted to go to bed, but then I couldn't sleep well because I was tossing and turning so excited, right? I couldn't wait to wake up. Yeah. Here's the thing. So you typically as kids, we get terrible sleep on Christmas Eve, but as soon as it's morning, our eyes spring open, we jump out of bed with all the energy and excitement. And I had a theory. I thought, wait a minute, couldn't we create that expectation to wake up every single day if we were intentional about it? So my first night going to bed, I was thinking, I can't wait to wake up and try this morning routine. Like I've never done this before. It's kind of scary, but I'm kind of excited and this is going to be cool. And so I went to bed like a kid on Christmas Eve. And this was the crazy part. At that time in my life, because of what I was going through with losing my house and my income, I was really depressed. For the first time in my life, I was depressed. And I hated waking up in the morning. In fact, if anyone's ever been depressed, if you guys have, there's going to sleep is often like the only escape, right? It's like this, oh my God, I get to go in bed. I have no problems that I have to deal with right now. There's not, right? I get to escape, into my bed and just sleep. And then you wake up and you check out. And as soon as your eyes open, you go, oh God, I have to face life again, right? And I think most of us have been there. And I was there at that time. That night, I went to bed like, I can't wait to wake up. And when the alarm went off in the morning, I didn't go, oh God, I go, cool, I'm going to try this. And I went in the living room. I sucked at meditating. I didn't know how to do affirmations. Like I had never visualized, like most of the things I didn't know what I was doing. But even after an hour of what I would call a mediocre morning, right? There wasn't a name for it at the time. I felt so clear and energized and inspired and motivated. And maybe most importantly, I felt optimistic for the first time in 6 months, because I went, if I start every day like this, with this much energy and clarity and motivation, and I'm gaining knowledge, if I start every day like this, it's only a matter of time before I become the person that I need to be to create everything that I want for my life. And I was thinking it would take 6 to 12 months, and it was in less than 2 months. I more than doubled my income. Wow. I went from being in the worst shape of my life physically to committing to run a 52-mile ultra marathon, even though I had never run before. And my depression went away, not in 2 months, more like a day or two.
Wow.
So one of the things that causes depression, from my vantage point, is when we lose hope, right? If you like, if you encounter adversity, but you have hope, like, okay, I can get through this, I can do it, right? You're not depressed. You're hopeful, right? You're optimistic. But that's when I first started losing clients. I'm like, no big deal. I'll get more. I'll figure it out, right? And then I lost client after client after client, and days went by, and then weeks went by, and then months went by, and slowly my optimism eroded into depression. And I go, oh my God, what do I do? I'm losing my house. I can't. I'm putting food on credit cards. Like, I've never felt so out of control. And the first day I did Miracle Morning, the hope came back. The optimism came back, because again, I went, if I do this every day, it's only a matter of time. And in 2 months, and that's why, so the depression was gone in a matter of a day or two.
Right.
And so 2 months into it, I went to my wife and I go, sweetheart, I just signed another client today. We officially, this is the most clients I've ever had. Now keep in mind, the economy continued to decline. 90%, and I'm throwing out a random number, but most businesses continued to fail and decline and got a business, and mine was thriving.
Nice.
Now, why? Not because anything outside of me got better. The economy did not get better. It actually got worse. I got better. That's what the Miracle Morning does for you. It enables you to become a better version every day of the person that you were when you went to bed the night before, for you to focus on what is in your control and to optimize what it is your control, beginning with your mental and emotional well-being, then getting into logistics of improving income, improving health, improving relationships, whatever those things are. And by you becoming that level 10 person, you start to find that you, by default, start to create that level 10 success that you want in every area of your life. And so that's the Miracle Morning in a nutshell. And if you want, we can I'm happy to go into each of the 6 practices and give some beginner/advanced strategies to get started.
Yeah. Well, let me just throw in one thing. So, and this is for our listeners who may not be familiar with your work, if they've been on Mars for the last, 10 years or whatever, but the change that happened in our marriage, and mind you, when we were going through all this stuff, like almost getting divorced, we're like really not liking each other. I was a marriage and family therapist, right? So the paradigm, just goofiness there was, just bonkers.
Yeah.
But our marriage did not change until I said, you know what? You're not making the marriage the worst thing ever.
Right.
I'm not making the marriage the worst thing ever. I stopped blaming her. I said, okay, Seth, you control what you can control. You do the best that you can in all areas that you can. And guess what? Thank God she was on board too. And then we both started to go. So it was like just a night and day thing. I was like, okay, she doesn't owe me anything. I'm not going to look to her for anything. I mean, of course, be in a relationship, but not to like fulfill me or fill this hole, or you didn't do this, so now I'm all pissed or weird or whatever. Yeah. Like, no, none of that bull crap. That's like lower level marriage, right? So we decided to change ourselves, and then, guess what? Our finances changed, our marriage changed, our parenting relationship changed, everything changed. So I want our listeners to really, you got to think about that, because nothing is going to change. And also the Jim Rohn quote that you said was phenomenal. How many marriage books are you reading? Do you have a marriage coach? Are you going to counseling? All this stuff, because you can't have this type of marriage if you're not doing all this other stuff. And that just so applies to everything.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting to me that so many of our listeners they treat marriage as if it is like a thing that will make stuff better. And I'm like, no, thing. Marriage is not a thing. Your relationship with yourself and your spouse. Now those are things. And that's how a marriage becomes amazing. And like I said, like I read the Miracle Morning first, started doing it on my own. Then he read it and then he started doing it. So we both were doing our own Miracle Morning practices. And that, like, I mean, no joke, you transformed our entire lives, and you are basically why this podcast exists.
Wow.
You made this podcast happen.
That is an honor and a half. And I love your guys' energy. So
well, thanks. So if you could hit on the savers, each one, and explain to our listeners so they can start doing them.
Yeah, so if you're listening, let me give you a visual. SAVERS, right? So this is an acronym, the savers, that represent the 6 practices of the Miracle Morning. The first S is silence. It used to be meditation, and then it became silence because the M didn't fit the acronym very well. And the last S is Mavers. And the last S was journaling, but the J didn't fit the acronym very well, so it became scribing. So let me run through these 6. So the S is for it's for silence. That is your meditation and or your prayer time. And it can also be deep breathing and even contemplation. Like there's, and I love, by the way, it was my wife's idea. I got to give her credit, right? I was writing the Miracle Morning book one day. I was in my office and I had these 6 practices: meditation, affirmations, right? Visualization, all these things. And I was thinking, I'm like, how am I going to organize these into a memorable system? Because I'm thinking like, Stephen Covey's got the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and Robert Kiyosaki's at the Cash Flow Quadrant. Like these authors think of something to make it memorable and like cohesive. And I just had these 6 random practices, no way connecting them. And I was walking down the hall, and my wife was walking the other way, and she goes, "What's going on?" I said, "I'm frustrated." And she said, "Why?" I said, "I have these 6 practices. I didn't invent any of them. So in order to make them like memorable, I need to find a way to like make them cohesive, connected. I don't know." And she goes, "Why don't you get a thesaurus and see if you can replace any of the words with other same meaning words, and then make it into an acronym?" And I go, "That's a great idea." And so, that's where meditation became silence, journaling became scribing. But I love that meditation became silence, because meditation is only one form of silence. Some people go, I don't want to meditate, I want to pray. Or, I want to meditate, but prayer is very important, right? So if it was just meditation, it would leaving that out. So here's the thing about silence. Most of us start our day in the opposite of silence, in some form of chaos. And I don't necessarily mean an auditory chaos. Very often it's just a mental chaos. It's grabbing our smartphone. And
we go to the first thing in the morning.
Right to the phone, right? And we're looking at, the news, or we're looking at social media, or we're checking our email. When you spend time in silence, you give your mind an opportunity to access the wisdom of, you can fill in a blank here, the wisdom of God, the wisdom of your highest self, the wisdom of infinite intelligence, right? That's why we have our best thoughts usually in the shower, right? Or when we're falling asleep at night. Think about that. When you're falling asleep at night, it's usually silent. And that's when you're like, ooh, I just thought of that thing. Sometimes it's something you have to do, but for me, it's a lot of times it's like, wait a minute, I just realized how I've been showing up for my wife in a way that doesn't serve her. And now I realize I'm seeing, like, my greatest access or wisdom is accessed during periods of silence. And so in the morning, instead of starting your day with that chaos, I have a rule that my phone can't come off airplane mode until I have done my Miracle Morning. And so I start the day with peaceful, purposeful silence. And that can be, for me, it's meditation and prayer. And I want to give a quick meditation technique that's different from what most people are used to. I call this emotional optimization meditation. And I invented this, or at least I think I did, during COVID. Most meditations are like, follow your breath, clear your mind. I'm a really results-oriented person. I like to achieve outcomes, right? So while it is an outcome in and of itself to calm your nervous system, lower your cortisol levels, the way that this meditation works, it's more of a proactive meditation where here's the steps. Number 1, ask yourself, which emotional state would best serve me? Now, that might be, for the morning. It might be for the day. It might just be at this time in your life, right? Like if you're going through a stressful time, then the emotional state that best serves you might be just peace, just calm, peace. If you're feeling really maybe unhappy, maybe it's an emotion of happiness or gratitude, right? So ask yourself, what state would be optimal for me to experience? What emotional state? And let's just use gratitude as an example, okay? So you decide, you know what, I really want to feel I just want to feel grateful. I just want to feel really grateful for my life right now. Okay, that's the state. So number one, you identify the emotional state. Number two, ask yourself, what puts me in that state? So come up with a stimulus. It might be a memory. Like, well, the last time I felt really grateful was when this was happening. Something where you can close your eyes and you can imagine it and get into that state. For me, it's just my kids. Right? If I think about like what makes me feel grateful, Sophie and Halston, right? Like I literally, you just like, that was an unforced smile, like I just smile ear to ear. I feel so grateful thinking of my kids, right? So that's the stimulus. All right. So I got the emotion figured out. Step two, the stimulus, it's my kids. I get into that state with the stimulus. And then step three is you set your timer. So whether you're going to meditate for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I'll use the word marinate. You marinate in that emotional state. You just sit in it. You go as deep as you can. You feel it. If you need to, sometimes I'll use affirmations. While I'm doing that, I'll go, I'm so grateful for my kids. I'm so blessed to have my babies. Like I'll just, and I don't force the words. I just sit there and I just stay in that state. Here's the reason that I'm encouraging you to do this and why I love it. But as you spend time in any emotional state, you're literally creating neural pathways in your brain that hardwire that emotional state, and it makes it easier to access. It becomes your default. And I choose many states. So I choose confidence some mornings. Some mornings I choose just being at peace. On the weekends, I'll choose like being fun and loving, and I'll get in that state before the kids come downstairs. And each of these states is like a different muscle group, right? You're working out your biceps, you're working out your triceps, you're working out your abs. Each emotional state makes up a full, human emotional system. And so you literally can reprogram your brain to feel however you want to feel. And then you can access that state at will. All right, so I just realized on time I can go like 5 more minutes over, but I want to get through all the savers for everybody.
Yeah.
All right, so the A is for affirmations. This is my favorite and yet the most misunderstood of the savers or of any personal growth practice. Affirmations, we're taught one of two ways. Typically, number one, we're taught to lie to ourselves. Like if you want to be a millionaire, just say, I am a millionaire over and over and over. Just say it. Like trick yourself into believing it, right? But the truth will always prevail. If you're struggling financially and you say, I am a millionaire, your subconscious is going to go, no, you're not. Like, who are you kidding, right? Now you're fighting yourself. You're like, shut up, I'm doing my affirmations, right? So lying to yourself is never the optimum strategy. The truth will always prevail. The second aspect is, or the second problem with the way we've been taught affirmations is we're taught to use this flowery passive language that produces a magical result independent of our effort. So very popular example, I am a money magnet. Money flows to me effortlessly and in abundance, right? Like wake up call. That's not how money works. People don't build fortunes by sitting on their couch, staring at a vision board, pretending they're a money magnet, right? Like, no, you have to actually work hard, create value for the world. And then that value that you create and contribute to the world will be reciprocated in the form of monetary compensation, right? So here are 3 steps to create affirmations that are practical and that will produce tangible, measurable results. Step 1, affirm what you're committed to. I am committed to blank. No matter what, there is no other option. I am committed to blank. I'm committed to earning this much money. I'm committed to working out 5 days a week. I'm committed to spending an hour a day with my kids. I'm committed to going on date night every week. I'm committed to whatever. I am committed to blank. No matter what, there's no other option. Now, you're not fantasizing about something that you want and then it's going to magically happen just because you want it. You are affirming, I'm committed to this result, this outcome. I'm fully committed. It's a gut check every time you read it. And it's reinforcing what's necessary to achieve anything, which is a commitment to achieve that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Step 2, why is it deeply meaningful for you? Why is that outcome meaningful for you? Why is it crucial? Why is it a must? And it doesn't have to be one answer to this. It could be bullet points. When I was fighting cancer, I affirmed every day, I'm committed to beating cancer and living to be 100 years old alongside Ursula and the kids. No matter what, there's no other option. And then I had 5 reasons that supported it. In fact, you saw that in the movie, right? I'm committed to beating cancer for Ursula because I promised her forever and a day. I'm committed to beating cancer for Sophie because she needs her daddy's love and affection. And I wrote the same for my son. I'm committed to beating cancer for my dad because he gave up everything to save me.
That's when I wept in the movie. Yeah. That was when I was weeping. Oh, so good. Keep going. Yeah, sorry.
It was an impromptu scene that I'm so glad our director was there to film. Yeah. I said, I'm committed to beating cancer for my mom because she doesn't deserve to lose another child. You're going to make me cry.
It was a lot.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm committed to beating cancer for myself because I deserve to live a long, healthy life. And I'm committed to beating cancer for the millions of people who are themselves battling cancer or some other disease and have not been blessed with the knowledge and resources I have and desperately need my love, my leadership, and my guidance. And those whys, that's what fueled me. When I was sick and I was tired, and there were days I wanted to die. There were so many days where I'm like, I'm at peace with death, I don't want to leave my wife and kids, which that's what kept me going, right? But I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. It was so hard. And it was those whys. I'm like, no. I'm committed for my wife, for my mom, for my dad. And like, now it wasn't an option. It wasn't an option. So step 2 is get clear on your reasons why. And step 3 is affirm what specific actions you will take and when. Which actions you will take and when. And now those 3 steps, now you're affirming not some fantasy. You're not pumping yourself up saying, I'm amazing, I'm awesome, I'm this, I'm that. You're affirming real, tangible, actionable affirmations that will keep you aligned with your thinking and your behaviors to follow through and achieve what you want to achieve. The third, the V in visual is Sabers is for visualization. And this one is relatively simple, but again, it's misunderstood and mistaught because we're taught to visualize the end result. But what really gets us to the end result is the daily activity. So the most important key I can give you on visualizing is don't just visualize the end result. Don't just visualize the paycheck or the marriage or the money or the dream house or crossing the finish line of the marathon. Visualize yourself engaged in the activity today that you must engage in. And when you visualize that, see yourself and feel yourself in an optimal emotional state while you engage in that activity. And that visualization is what will compel you to do the thing that will get you the outcome that you want. So when I was training for the marathon, I hated running. So I'd visualize myself getting dressed in my running clothes and then heading out the front door with a smile on my face. And I would say things like, all right, I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to feel better after I do it. It's going to be great. I'm getting better every day, right? I would get myself pumped up. And then when the alarm went off at 7 a.m. on my phone, that visualization was a mental rehearsal. And I was able to get up and go do the thing that I visualized doing. I had gone there in my mind, body, and spirit. Going there in real time was that much easier. Yeah. I'll go through the last 3 real quick because they're easy. The E is for exercise. I'm not saying you got to go to the gym in the morning, but I am saying that you'd be crazy to not experience the benefits of getting 5 or 10 minutes of jumping on a trampoline, doing a little yoga from YouTube, going for a bike ride, jumping jacks, whatever. Do the 7-minute workout app. You've got it. Your mental, emotional, and physical energy. All of that is even Robin Sharma said in the Miracle Morning movie that the benefits of exercise can last as long as 13 hours after the exercise, right? So do a little bit in the morning. The R is for reading. And both of you said, right? Reading that was the game changer for you guys. We're all 1 book away from learning what we need to learn to transform any area of our life. You want to be happy? There's a book or 2 on that, right? Yeah. You want to improve your marriage? There's a book or 2 on that. You want to become wealthy, whatever you want. There is a book that someone that spent a lot of time figuring it out. Yeah. And in a very short amount of time, you can learn decades of experience that you can implement in your life. The final S is for scribing. And again, that's a fancy word for writing or journaling. But it's simply every day I write down 3 things I'm grateful for. I use the 5-minute journal. It's an app. I write down 3 things I'm grateful for and the 3 most important things I need to get done that day to make the biggest impact in my personal, professional life. And I'll wrap a bow on this by saying, so those are the savers. Any one of those 6 practices, you can find countless people throughout history that have sworn by meditation or by affirmations or by visualization, and that attribute their success to that one practice. Any one of these will change your life. But when you do all 6 of these every day, it literally creates miracles. That's why it's called the miracle morning. It creates results that are so beyond what you can imagine being possible for you until you actually achieve them. And you can do these in 6 minutes. There's a chapter in the miracle morning called the 6-minute miracle morning. Do 1 minute each. You could do them in a half an hour, 5 minutes each. Most people do an hour. You just wake up an hour earlier or 30 minutes earlier. And the first few days, you're going to feel those benefits. And then, just like both of you have said, like you become hooked, and
right.
So that's the miracle morning in a long-winded nutshell.
oh my goodness. Thank you so much.
The question that I have is, do you ever get tired of being inspiring? Like, if you're ever sick of yourself, you're just like, I'm so inspiring.
I do get sick of myself a little bit sometimes, but and I think I'm like, are people, because I hear myself talk so much, right? I'm like, is this annoying people? Like, it's annoying me, but one thing I've gotten to is just a place of, I do my best to not allow anyone else's judgment to affect my mission. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
And by the way, I'm glad I said that. And this thought just came up because it's my own judgment of myself in the form of insecurity that would stop me more than anybody else's judgment. That's the one that to this day impacts me more than any else's. I judge myself on, I sounded stupid. What did I say? I talked too long. I'm human like anybody, right? And so, but I think that's important. Get clear on what are you about? What is your mission in life? And then don't let anybody else's judgment and don't let your own judgment get in the way of you fulfilling why you were put on this earth and whatever that is for you.
Yeah,
Amazing.
that reminds me of In the Miracle Morning, the movie. Like I said, last week we watched it with all of our kids. I highly recommend everybody watch it with all of their children. It is so amazing. I wept when you talked about your father and your mother and like your mission, essentially. Why does it matter to survive cancer? Why does it matter to do all these things? And your passion when you speak about those things is it's like life-giving. At the same time, it's really deeply hard to watch because it's like you're in so much pain and it's obviously so hard. But even now, this is going to sound really weird, but even the scene where you're in that apartment with your dad and he's like making you a smoothie or whatever you're doing, he's like you're talking about your pills and he's making you a smoothie.
Yeah.
It was so touching. It was so deeply touching because it's like this opportunity. And I know you talked about cancer doesn't sound like an opportunity, but it provided you this opportunity to have this connection with your dad. Yeah. And when you told him you wanted him to go home and then he said no, and you said, I was glad he said no, I was like, I can hardly take this. It's so amazing. And what's so amazing is that you let your purpose, which is bigger than cancer, it's bigger than a car accident, it's bigger than you'll be in a wheelchair for your life. You let that mission really steer all of your actions. And it's so apparent in your writing. I read The Miracle Equation as well. And you're such a phenomenal inspiration, such a phenomenal person. And you really do show people, I think, what is the healthiest way that people can move through this earth. I mean, the savers really are life-saving. They are lifesavers. And so I just want to thank you for the way you show up and the energy that you bring. And honestly, the transformation that you've made in our world and in our life, it is huge. It's huge. And you really are like, I've been like sweating the whole time because I'm like, I'm talking to Hal Elrod. But it's just amazing. And we are so thankful for the time that you've given to us, just individually, but of course, in all the work that you've done.
Yeah.
So to honor your time, I want to make sure that we allow people to find you wherever they find you, to read whatever you want them to read. So share all the places that you want our listeners to go and the things you want them to check out.
Yeah, go to miraclemorning.com. That's the fastest or easiest way to kind of the hub for all the things. You can find books there, the movie there, all of it. miraclemorningmovie.com takes you directly to kind of the movie page. But and if you want to watch the movie, Miracle Morning Movie, that shows you where to find it. If you're in United States, you can watch it on Amazon Prime, you know. And then if you're anywhere else in the world, where we're trying to get it on all the different Amazons, right now you can watch it on Vimeo. So if you go to miraclemorningmovie.com, that's got the link for Amazon, the link for Vimeo, the DVD if you want to, you know, get that. And but yeah, I think the movie is the best intro into the Miracle Morning world, because it brings the book to life in such a way where, you know, and it's also shorter. You can watch the movie in 90 minutes, then you could order the book, and you could, you know, you can, that'll be here in a couple days. You'll be ready. You'll be so fired up to read it because you saw the movie, you know, so I think that's a good place to start.
Amazing. Awesome. Like out of the 300 plus shows that we've done, like, you know, we give advice and anecdotal stuff, but I believe that this is probably the best one. It's like, okay, people, do these things and your life will change. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Do these, show up for yourself, show up for your bigger why, and your life absolutely will change. You're proof of it. We're proof of it, and millions more, obviously. But you guys go check out what Hal is doing and everything else. Hal, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you so much for giving us time. Well, I know you're a busy man, and just thank you so much. We appreciate it.
It is mutual. Thank you. I love both of you very much. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for living the Miracle Morning, sharing the Miracle Morning. Together, we are truly elevating the consciousness of humanity, one morning and one person at a time. So appreciate you guys.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, man. We'll talk to you later. Okay.
All right.